You gotta just chill out, man.
Pittsburgh Steeler fans, and welcome back to another edition of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you Tuesday night, a little bit after 9 p.m. Where else is a Steelers fan would you rather be? And with me, as always, except when he's not, is my big brother, Rich. Rich, how's it going tonight?
Just want to take another moment and get in one more deep breath of that sweet smell of victory. It's not quite as sweet tonight as when you're smelling, the Three Rivers like we were right after the game. But
that's what I was going to say. You got to breathe it in
oh
at
man,
Sure Stadium. How? So you know what?
To me, the time I, Dave, the time I really
experienced in the stadium.
All right, the time I really breathe it in when I'm there is actually down closer to the river while I'm waiting in line to get back on the Clipper to go back across the stadium.
And it's just, I know, it's just that feeling.
Yep.
I know what you
Although
mean.
Kyle and I took a minute and got the exhale out in the stadium because we tend to wait and let the stadium clear out a little bit so that you're not having to walk through such a big crowd.
Oh, you're
to
closer to that end now. You can get down there faster. No, I'm just, no. I don't rush out of the stadium either.
No, there's no reason to be, because the other thing is that you rush out, we get across, then we fight traffic all the way out, which traffic was hard enough to fight getting out. That's the one thing I do like about those late night. Yeah, it was still pretty thick traffic getting out of there on Sunday.
I had no problem after the Ravens game. Drove straight out, nothing.
Dude, yeah. We were traffic all the way to Elizabeth.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. To the point where my GPS was actually telling me when we left Station Square to get down and go past Kennywood and come through that way. But I didn't, because I wanted to go the way I always go, because I got to bring this up. So Kyle will love that I bring this up. So we're about halfway between our house and Uniontown. And
on the way there.
On the way there.
Okay.
So that morning we left the house here. I stopped by the ATM to get some cash. I stopped and filled up the Jeep with gas. Kyle runs in and gets us breakfast in Sheets.
Mm-hmm.
So we're about halfway to Uniontown. We get talking. I was like, oh, yeah. And I said, we stop up here, blah, blah. He knew he wanted a Baja Blast to take. And he was like, well, I already got one when we stopped this morning. I got one because I didn't want to run the risk. And I was like, I blew up right away. What are you doing?
It's got to be
the Sheets mess this up. Got to be the Sheets in Uniontown.
51.
Drink there. So we got another Baja Blast. He was like, well, I didn't know if I'd be able to get one up there. I said, they'll have there. Get your Baja Blast. So he got another Baja Blast, and we left the one we bought in Maryland in the Jeep, and he took the one we bought in Uniontown in the stadium.
That's how you got to do it.
Because I told him, I said, man, if we lose, it's your fault.
Sorry, I didn't have pepperoni rolls for you either. That's
we bought them at Sheets.
You bought them at Sheets rather than had the ones that I make. Hey, that's all right. I actually got to see Kyle last night and hooked him up with pepperoni rolls then instead. So but that's the thing. It's got to be the right sheets. It's got to be the right sheets that you.
We always stop at the same one going to games.
Yeah. Now coming
stop
out,
at the same one going to, and I stop at the same one coming home. Although I had a couple years in there, couldn't stop at the one coming home
because it was closed
because they had tore it down to rebuild it.
Yeah,
But now that one's back up and going, so got the same stops.
I don't have to do the same stops on the way out of there because you can't mess up the mojo after the game. So, but you got to do the right mojo on the way there.
I was disappointed because the one we stopped to at the way home, what did I always say I liked about that one?
Wait a second, which one? The one that we on the way home?
Yeah.
What is that one? I know because it's not the first one you come to. It's the next one you come to.
It's down closer. It's down, I don't know, but it's still about 4 or 5 miles north of Perryopolis.
Yeah, it's just before you get to Perryopolis.
Okay. I always liked it because they would carry 20-ounce bottles of cheer wine.
There you go.
Okay.
You get cheer wine.
They quit carrying them.
Oh, you're kidding me. Don't bother stopping there anymore.
So now I'm not going to be so set on stopping at that Sheets on the way home because that's part of the reason I would stop there would be to get a cheer wine. And if they're not going to carry them.
Now, here's the question: Did you park in the garage
Of course.
Square. You have
Yes.
you have to go past the garage and come in the far entrance.
Correct.
And as soon as you come through, you don't go up the ramp. You turn left and then you go down.
And
that's
go
where we
down.
have to park.
That's right.
In order for everything to be all right. That's where
That's
I
right.
parked against the Ravens, and that's where you needed to park this time. You get it there. Although I was afraid I was going to mess it up. I did something last game I'd never done before.
You backed in, didn't you?
No, what? No, don't get me started with people that
Okay.
back. Oh, that drives me nuts. That is a big pet peeve of mine.
My favorite Kyle and I are there. Somebody else backs in and then immediately has to pull up and
Get in the
let his wife get out of the car and open up the back and get all their stuff out of the back.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me started on that. That's a non-Steelers topic. No, I actually paid for my parking before I went to the game.
Oh, see, I thought about it, and I said to Kyle, I said, I could go ahead and do it. I said, no, going to pay after the game. I don't care if we have to wait in line. Well, by the time we get back there is no line. So
Well, there was a big line when I came back through. But the reason I did is because I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I don't think I've ever done this before, but if I did, it was when I came with my wife. And then this was the first time coming with my wife since 2017, since I'd been a part of formerly Behind the Steel Curtain and Steel Curtain Network. We hadn't gone to a game together. But I'm sorry, everyone. I hope you're enjoying. We love talking about our game experiences. So on the Clipper, did you ride on the very top?
of
Both
course.
ways? See,
Both
I
ways.
didn't ride on the very top on the way there. We rode on the top on the way back.
We rode on the top there, rode on the top back because again, depends on what boat I get. But see, I use a little trickery because I know the boats well enough.
Mm-hmm.
So a little trickery, there are ways you can be on the very top of the boat and be one of the first people off the boat when it parks back over at Station Square. And Con and I pulled that trick. That's why there's no line. That's why there's no line at the.
There you go.
At to pay for parking because we're probably one of the first 10 people off the boat after riding back on the third deck.
There you go. But yeah, so we're in the stadium. We got to be. I mean, we're 7 minutes in, and we're talking about the game, but we're talking about the other parts of the game and the traditions of the game. The way it started, you weren't very happy. I even had a text from you. The Steelers did not look good to start this game, but they haven't looked good to start a lot of games, in all honesty. But this one just kind of seemed like with George Pickens being inactive at the last minute, and then it seemed like the offense was like double yoy, that you didn't know what was really going on. You were pretty frustrated at first, weren't you?
Yeah, it was a little frustrating to watch because it was just like, come on, get it together. Now, after the game, I figured out what was going on.
Okay.
It took until after the game, and actually, it was something Charlie Batch said in the post-game show that really, really made me understand what was going on. Okay? So, the Steelers were playing without George Pickens. So, not only were the Steelers having to try to figure out what they could do without George Pickens, not having George Pickens on the field also changed what the Steelers were expecting from the Cleveland Browns. So they were having to make a, for lack of a better term, double adjustment.
Yeah.
And it was taking some time to figure out exactly then what was going on the field and make adjustments to it.
And as Coach Tomlin said in his press conference earlier today, man, so much has happened. I don't feel like that was even today, but because I had to do the recap. I was on a Philly sports podcast and everything today. So been talking a lot of Steelers. So it seems like it's been forever since I was listening to his press conference. But one thing he said is like they asked about halftime adjustments. He's like, well, we were adjusting throughout. We might have been able to make our biggest, really assess some things at halftime, but we were having to adjust the whole time as to what we were doing. And I think you're exactly right that they had to, it wasn't just, sometimes people don't understand that part of the game. And you're like, why do the Steelers start so slow or blah, blah, blah. And sometimes it's okay. We've got to see what they're going to do. So then we know what we're going to do to beat what they're going to do. Honestly.
Yeah. Right. And so when you stop and think about it, it's not just then the Steelers offense on the fly having to try to adjust to their change in personnel. Then while they're trying to make that adjustment, it's also trying to figure out, okay, with us having different personnel, what has changed for the Cleveland Browns? Trying to figure that out so they can figure out both things together so they can start to get the correct personnel packages and plays and things like that.
Yeah, and it also works on the defense, both positively and negatively. Think of how many times, like this last game, my goodness, did the Steelers completely stomp the Browns on their very first drive. TJ Watt comes in on the first play, 5-yard loss on a run.
Yeah.
If I recall, they had how many negative yards on the first drive? Something. It was something like that. I'll find it here soon, in order to tell you. But then wasn't it the next drive they gave it the touchdown?
Was it? No. Was it?
Yes,
or was it?
It was.
Was it the very
first yard, or the very first drive? The Browns went 3 plays for negative 12 yards, and punted. And their next drive after the Steelers field goal, they went 70 yards and 7 plays for a touchdown. So what do you know? Other teams do the same thing. You want to see what the Steelers defense is bringing early, which they really owned it. Then you turn around and you counterpunch. I've also seen the Steelers defense do the same thing to the opposing team's offense. Come out on that first drive, and the team seems like they can really move the ball, come out on the next drive, and the Steelers have something in mind and stop the next drive. That's the back and forth. That's the chess, not checkers, that goes on in an NFL game. So when you hear about the Steelers being very good second quarter teams, very good third quarter teams, some of the best in the NFL, that's what you're doing along the way. Now, the Steelers have also been a good fourth quarter team when they've needed to come through in the fourth quarter. Now, this past game, my goodness, they were up 27-7 going into the fourth quarter. So that was a whole different story. But yeah, the Steelers scored 24 points between the second and third quarter. So they obviously made the adjustments and were ready to go pretty well with that. Now, I said that about the fourth quarter, so I'm going to ask you about this in stadium. Did it feel like the Steelers went into play the clock, don't lose mode in the third quarter?
No.
I felt it in the third quarter on TV. No. I was wondering how you felt there.
No.
Because you hadn't had Renegade yet.
No, it didn't. No, and it wasn't until that drive right when they played Renegade, when the Steelers let them dink and dunk it down the field, and eventually they scored the touchdown, but it took them over 5 minutes of game clock to do. That's when you felt the Steelers really had kind of, they were still up 27-7, what was it, with about 12 minutes to go in the 11 and change in the fourth quarter.
It was when they played Renegade, there was 13:06 left.
Is that what it was?
Yep.
That's right. Because then it was partway through that drive when I just turned to Kyle, and the Browns were still on their side of the field, and we were down to like 11:06, and the Browns were only at about their own like 39 or 40 yard line, and I that's kind of when I said to Kyle, I said the Steelers are kind of content to give up small plays or let them even get a 3-yard run, a 4-yard run, a 6-yard completion, just constantly doing those things and just make them chew clock. And it was down to about 8 minutes, I guess, close to when they scored. And
7 minutes and 19 seconds left in the game. Yep. I got it in front of me. That's how I can answer.
So when they made them take that much time, at that point in time, I was like, see, this is where going into that type of defense I was okay with, because we made them use the time.
Yeah, and honestly, how nervous did you get when Cordero Patterson fumbled that football when they got it at midfield?
I think at that point I said to Kyle, I was like, are we really going to let them get this back to a 1-score game?
Yeah. Because it felt like it, didn't it?
It was another one of those where I was like, you know what? If the defense does their job and makes them take another 3.5, 4 minutes off the clock before they score, that's not awful. but then I still need the offense to come out and try to get a first down.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Well, and here's what was nifty about that. So they fumbled the football. That was, and that was right after the wasn't the one right? Wasn't it right before the fumble? Was that the Scotty Miller catch?
yes.
Yeah. So that was right before the fumble. So they fumble the ball. The Browns get it back. They run one play for 11 yards, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yep.
And then the next play, with just under 4 minutes left, interception. Then you're like, nope, we're good. I felt after the interception, I'm like, okay, now you can run enough clock that they're not going to score twice.
What was funny there with that interception is like at the snap of the ball, you could almost feel that interception coming. The Steelers were not that they were right on top of it, but they kind of pushed him and made it, kind of pushed the pocket a little bit, made him uncomfortable, and you could tell that you could feel or tell that he threw the ball at a point in time that he was not particularly wanting to throw it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like he wasn't comfortable, I think, with the timing and position of that throw, and it was just a really bad throw.
Well, when you think about, because it was Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, it was really funny. This is what I like about Arthur Smith's offense. You didn't get to enjoy this as watching the game at home. I mean, trust me, you had it better. But because it was Arthur Smith's offense, you know how Tony Romo used to say, all right, this is what they're going to do right here and blah, 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 when he does stuff. He would do that and be wrong. And it was great.
Nice.
So I really enjoyed that. But,
the only thing I got tired of was the Steelers getting into that mode of, hey, we're going to pass it on first down. Oh, it's incomplete. It's 2nd and 10. Everybody in the stadium knew that the next play was a run.
Yeah.
And Cleveland knew the next play was a run. We never got more than 2 yards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then why didn't we throw it again?
But yeah, so the one thing I was going to say about Tony Romo is he's talked about, why did Jameis Winston throw that ball? He didn't have it. He had the check down to Ford just to get a decent, just to get some yards there and everything. But there's a reason for that. What were the Steelers allowing them to do? The dink and dunk, run a bunch of clock.
Yep.
And guess what the Browns realized, or at least Jameis Winston realized? We're not going to have
doing that. We're not going to have a chance.
I need to try to get some chunk yards, and guess what? He didn't have it. So for those like, that was a terrible decision. The decision probably was we've got to get more and not take so much time doing this. We've got to give ourselves time to get back in this game, and therefore that was the last offensive play they ran was that interception. Because the Steelers, even though they went 3 and out, they had the muff punt that that was so nice because he had been the one, which is funny because he got cut today.
Oh, did he? Nice.
Yeah, the wide receiver was it Kadarius Toney? Is that who he was? Yeah, he got cut today from the Browns after that muff punt. But earlier he got the 15-yard penalty for throwing the ball at Skoranek. And then what happens the next time? He muffs it and Skoranek grabs it. And the Steelers, they did get the first down there to run out the clock.
By the way, you know what the best part was there? So, Myles Garrett had done nothing all day. And on that third down play, he gets the sack of Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Now the only reason he gets that sack, I said
because Russell Wilson wanted.
I said to Kyle, I said, I hope he throws it here, but I hope we throw it and go for the first down. But I also hope that we don't go back to throw it, get pressure, and throw it out of bounds, stop the clock. If anything, take the sack. So basically, Russ gave up the sack to keep the clock running, and I don't know if they showed it on TV, but Myles Garrett comes up trying to tell the whole crowd, shh, be quiet, whatever, celebrating all this and that. And then the punt happens, and guess who has to go right back out on the field?
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing. The only reason he had a sack Russell Wilson could have thrown that ball away.
Sure
But the 40 seconds was more important
than the 12 yards.
10 yards.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Hey, here's a good way to say it. Kathy said, Russ volunteered for that sack. That he did exactly what I was trying to instruct my quarterback on the last offensive play we ran as the last year I was coaching. I was like, we were going for it on fourth down because they were loading up the box, everything, and he wanted to just flare the tight ends down the field and throw it to them. It's like, we'll get the first down. I said, it's very simple. If they're not wide open, fall down and take the sack. Don't run backwards. Don't try to get away. Don't throw it out there to get it. Either it's wide open or we just take the sack because it doesn't matter. He didn't do it, but that's exactly what Russ did because that's what you needed in that scenario. You had to have a completion. Even if it wasn't for a first down, it had to at least be complete. And if not, who cared about the yards? You needed the 40 seconds.
Yep. Russ understood the assignment.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Understood the assignment. Yeah. Done. So, by the way, I think it was after that. I think it was after the was it the one after the muff punt? I don't know. There's about 10 different times in stadium that the Cleveland sucks.
That's what Jeffrey Benedict put out there. He said, "Yeah, but I was sure the whole bunch of Brown suck chants waiting for him."
It's Cleveland sucks. Cleveland sucks.
Yeah,
started probably about 10 times and went throughout the stadium. I believe that time there was one time in there Kyle and I kind of got it started.
Yeah,
and it might have been. I don't remember if it was right there or not. It was towards the very end of the game. But the other interesting thing was, now you probably couldn't tell on TV because everybody on TV probably was thinking we were chanting Cleveland sucks. But there was twice during the game, especially it was the really loud one was after the bogus roughing the passer call on Alex Highsmith, that the entire stadium, I don't think had ever heard that loud chanting, refs, you suck.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing with the Highsmith one, the way they were explaining, like Gene Steratore came in and said it was the right call because he took 2 steps to hit him after the ball was out. But the thing is, he was coming so fast. Yeah, he was obviously letting up when he bumped into him.
Correct.
That's the difference.
Yep.
He wasn't hitting him. He bumped into him letting up. That's why it shouldn't be.
And Jameis gave a bad acting job and got the call.
So I was trying to actually, there was something I wanted to check. I really wanted to check this. So if you give me just a second, because I meant to do it during the game, and I never did. Because what number does Jameis Winston wear?
5.
I swore it was a 6. Because I thought I was looking at Joe Nedney all over again.
Yeah.
So that was a very, very, I don't know. You look at it and you're like, well, did the Steelers really have their best game? Not really. But my goodness, they were up 27-7 going in the fourth quarter. They're up 27-14 is what they won by, and they took victory formation inside the 10-yard line. So it's another one of those times I'm like, they could have scored 3 to 7 more points. I mean, honestly, who was it? Someone was saying because of betting I think Jeff took over 27.5 points is one of his things. It's like you kind of almost wish that the Steelers didn't get that last first down and just had Boswell kick another field goal and go up 16 and but no, victory formation and hit 30 points, but no, victory formation is better.
Can I just tell you, so I don't know if you're like me in the stadium. In the stadium, you just get a feel.
Yes.
You know what I mean? A feel of the crowd, a feel of everything. When Benton intercepts that pass and then the Steelers 5 plays later punch it in for a touchdown.
Yeah.
The entire mood in the stadium shifted.
Yes.
And folks, like, everybody just got this feeling of, okay, we're going to win this one.
Yes. See, now, when I was there for the Ravens game, you were feeling that as the Steelers were getting down closer to the end zone when Russ threw his interception. Like the one time he couldn't throw it. You're like, oh, here it is. And then the interception, and it was very deflating. So the fact that the Steelers, that was when you then got the Peyton Wilson interception a little bit later, and they added another field goal. That when they went up, that's when or 8. That's when you're like, yeah, they're going to get this. Even though, like, to me, in that game, I felt like the Ravens were going to score the touchdown. It was going to come down to the 2-point conversion. You could just tell the mood in the stadium. You're exactly right. You can kind of do that. Hey, there's a couple things that we need to talk about here before we take our break. And because, just there's a little bit of news with everything with Coach Tom speaking today, but I'm going to bring up I haven't been keeping up the live chat because I've stayed behind to bring up one specific thing. And this is from Christopher Levy. He says, nobody tweaks a hammy during a Friday walkthrough. Okay. Well, it said weeks, but he switched it to tweaks here later. That's not what happened. Coach Tomlin laid out the whole timeline of everything with George Pickens very openly today. George Pickens actually tweaked his hammy in a post-practice workout. When the players stay out, Antonio Brown all the time used to go catch 1,000 balls after practice. So, something like that. He was working out after practice, and that's when he tweaked it. It was on Thursday. So it didn't show up on Thursday's injury report because practice was over. But on Friday, they decided to limit him and try to baby him along with it some. And they just expected that he was going to be able to play, just maybe not as much. And they were really surprised how much he couldn't do on Sunday. So much so they're like, we're going to have to limit him to so few plays. It's not worth having him out there. So they made him inactive. So much so Pat Freiermuth says he found out that Pickens wasn't playing because his dad texted before the game. Scotty Miller was in street clothes.
Scotty Miller found out 3 minutes before the inactive list was released.
And he wasn't even dressed for the game. So that was crazy that it went out that way. And then they because they held him out, then they did an MRI. And the MRI, you strain something, it doesn't always show up on an MRI. But isn't that what makes it a grade 1 versus grade 2 or whatever, that they could actually see it there? Bottom line is they could see it on the MRI, and they're like, okay, got to see what's going on here. So George Pickens for this week, Coach Tomlin says you might want to classify him as out. Right now I would say doubtful, which is true. But I remember another player earlier this season that was doubtful by Coach Tomlin at his press conference on Tuesday, and was even doubtful on Friday, and then got upgraded to questionable on Saturday, and then played on Sunday with a hamstring injury, and that was Jaylen Warren. But I think that's the exception, not the rule. So I'm not really looking for a George Pickens sighting on Sunday. But just thought I'd bring that up. That was the biggest thing from the press conference, the biggest news. Oh, the other news, Rich, we can talk about this. Before we'll take a break, wrap up everything from week 14 before we go to week 15. The Steelers have a playoff clinching scenario this weekend. They can clinch a playoff spot.
Okay.
One of two ways. One, if they beat the Philadelphia Eagles, they have clinched a playoff spot. Now they're not favored to beat the Eagles. But the other way they can clinch a playoff spot is if both the Colts and Dolphins lose. Both the Colts and Dolphins. Now, let's just see exactly what that is. Hold on, I'm on the wrong week of the season here. So the Colts. Okay, let's do the Dolphins first. The Dolphins are at the Texans. Ooh. And they're 3-point underdogs.
Yeah.
The Colts are at the Broncos and are 4-point underdogs. So, although it's much better to clinch your playoff berth by getting your victory, there is a chance that the Steelers could still clinch a playoff spot this weekend. So, I just thought I would bring that up. So, let's go ahead and let's take our
break.
And give me a comment here before we before we take our break.
No, I'll bring my stat up afterwards. So okay. Take the break.
So we'll go ahead and take our break. When we come back, we'll wrap up anything else from this game and talk about how the Steelers have set themselves up for success down the stretch. That's kind of what the playoff thing was implying. So if you're with us here on any of our live platforms, we're not going anywhere. If you're with us on the audio side, we'll be right back after these messages.
Relax, don't worry.
all right, we got to relax and don't worry. But you don't want to relax too much because the stretch that we've been worried about for all of that time is now upon us. But Rich,
you never relax during December football.
Oh no.
No.
But I gotta say this. Do you feel like the Steelers have put themselves in a pretty good spot for entering these 3 next games that they have coming up?
They have. But before we get into this little stretch, I wanted to bring up. So, of course, Kyle and I sitting, waiting to catch the Clipper back to Station Square after the game. And I had to wait a little bit, but eventually, the post-game show from the Steel Curtain Network comes on. And, of course, Jeff and Brian were both happy to bring up the fact that the Steelers beating the Browns mathematically eliminated them from playoff contention.
Yes.
But the other one that I don't think folks realize or brought up as much was that victory for the Steelers also guaranteed that they would finish ahead of the Cincinnati Bengals in the final standings in the AFC North.
Yeah.
Because the Bengals were already at 8 losses, and with that victory, the Steelers could have no more than 7.
You're exactly correct.
So
that's why I didn't really care who won that game Monday night, because normally I would be rooting against the Bengals, but my goodness, I don't want the Cowboys to win either.
Yeah.
So I was just like...
So it's guaranteed that the Steelers can finish no worse than second in the AFC North. No worse than second.
How many people?
And they are on the fast. They are on the fast track to win it. Okay, and how many people prior to the season, experts, air quotes, had picked the Steelers to finish last in the division? Tomlin get his, huh?
Or maybe third. A few of them had him at third, maybe.
But how many of them also were like, this will be Mike Tomlin's first losing season in Pittsburgh? Yeah. There's so much of that going on. So for me, it is just fun to see how wrong they had it.
Yes.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and honestly, Steelers fans felt like they knew something, because I know some people don't like to hear this and they want to run down Mike Tomlin anytime they can. But I felt even better when I talked to Jeffrey Benedict, who was in the live chat tonight, whenever he was on the Q&A, is that think about what Mike Tomlin's doing. But think about last year. The Steelers went to the playoffs with Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph. And nobody's lining up to have any of those guys lead their team into the postseason.
Yeah.
Every one of them is a backup this year.
Playoffs?
Yeah, exactly. And every one of them's a backup this year. Now, could you argue, well, maybe Kenny Pickett's a good backup, but, the Eagles are really, really, which we'll see. Yes, the Eagles are good. But I don't think the Eagles will be very good with Kenny Pickett. I'll be honest, if Kenny Pickett was playing in this game this week, it'd be like...
That'd be fun.
Steelers, that would be a whole lot of fun. But no, because the Eagles are better than that. So that's the thing you have to realize. And Steelers fans and people close to the team knew that, they even went to the postseason last year with that kind of quarterback situation. And, I was the eternal optimist saying, well, that's because the situation, it's where you're having improvement. That's the whole thing of what you want to see about the improvement. Or with the quarterback situation, you had your young rookie contract guy, and you wanted to see that he was eventually going to get there. You know what's better? Having a real bona fide NFL quarterback.
Yeah,
it really is. And even the Steelers' backup is one, just not to the same degree.
Yeah.
So nice. Getting that, people are like, oh, Russell Wilson you didn't realize. I know I'm missing Biggie Bronco. He's not in here tonight. He's been here before because he's talking.
I don't know.
He's been gone for a long time, and then he came back talking about, bragging on Bo Nix. I'll be honest with you. If you ask a bunch of Steelers fans if they'd rather have Russell Wilson or Bo Nix, guess who they're taking?
Russell Wilson.
If you ask a bunch of Denver fans who would they rather have, Russell Wilson or Bo Nix, who are they taking? Bo Nix. So bottom line is, your quarterback's better for you. This quarterback's better for us. You want to know why? Because you weren't letting him do the things that he could do. That's why. That wasn't the right place for him to do the things he could do. So Steelers fans, when you talk about, hey, I think the Steelers could win or at least come in second in the division, which is what they're going to do now. There's no way they can't. Steelers fans and people close to the team believe that because they understood that Russell Wilson didn't have to, or Justin Fields didn't have to be all world for the Steelers to win games. They just needed better quarterback play. And they're getting the double-digit wins. Now, the better they're doing, the more wins they're going to get. So that's what it comes down to.
We weren't looking for a quarterback to throw 3 touchdowns and run for 3 touchdowns in a game.
And still lose. That's not what the Steelers did. That's not what they needed. So that's the thing. It was the right situation. And that's, and not everyone could see it. And Coach Tomlin saw it all along. So much so he went to Russell Wilson when Justin Fields was 4-2. So you've got to love the vision. I believe that the Steelers could do it if things were, all they had to do was get adequate play and not be completely decimated by injuries like they kind of were last year on defense and still managed to do all right. And then that the Steelers could get the double-digit wins, which they just did. All right, here we go. We got a super chat. $10 into the tip jar from Steel Dog 88. It says, if I'm going to be honest, good. I want you to be honest, Steel Dog. I don't have any real expectations this week against the Eagles. Although clinching a playoff spot with a win would be amazing. Won't be mad at a loss either. You know what? I feel very similar to that, Steel Dog, and we're going to get to it rather quickly before I say, Rich, anything else you want to say about either the stuff I was just talking about or about last week's game?
No, I want to go ahead and kind of touch into a little bit to the point that Steel Dog was making there. Okay? Here's the deal. Steelers currently sit at 10-3.
Yes.
All right? 4 games to play. Dave, to you, what would be, over the last 4 games, what is a record you would be okay with?
2-2.
2-2. Okay? That's all I am. If the Steelers could,
2-2.
if the Steelers could go 2-2 over their last 4, to me, that's a success. All right? Now, if you're going to pick out of the 4 games left, if you're going to pick a game that you would say, you know what, the Steelers can lose that one, I wouldn't be upset about it. What's the first one you're going to pick?
The Eagles, the NFC
Eagles.
Opponent.
That's correct.
The nameless gray faces that have an N in front of their division and not an
That's
A.
That's correct. The team that the only other time you're going to see them is if you both would happen to make it all the way through and match up in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
This game this week, not nearly as important as the other 3. Now, does that mean the Steelers aren't going to go out and play and try to win the game? No, they're going to go out and try to play and win every game. Why?
You know why?
Kyle
said it. Wait a
Kyle's saying it.
Wait, why can't I find it? Where is it? Oh, there we go.
Hello? You play to win the game.
There we go. I finally found it.
Love us some Coach Herman.
I loved hearing Kyle in the background instead. Mm-hmm. So, yes. So, that's what would make winning this game so much sweeter, because it's the one that they don't have to have out of all of them. And I tell you this, I don't like saying it about that team, but bold statement. This is the best team left on their schedule. Even though they have 2 losses, Kansas City only has 1, and Kansas City is the defending Super Bowl champs. Right now, on their 9-game winning streak, I fear the Eagles more than the Chiefs.
So do I, because do you know what I liken the Chiefs to? I liken the Chiefs to the 2020 whatever, 11-0 start.
That's exactly what I was going to say. But you know who else that was? You know who else was likened to the 2020 Steelers?
Who?
The 2023 Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah. Just seemed like they were getting lucky to pull off some of the wins they were getting, and they could just as easily have 6 losses against them as the current one that they have. Talking about the Chiefs.
Yeah. And here you go. I'm going to bring this up because, one, I haven't seen him in the live chat for a long time, so it's really good to see Jerry Cherry Band back in the live chat. Maybe I've just missed him, but whether because he's been here and I just haven't seen him, but regardless, good to see you, Jerry Cherry. He says, do you root for the Browns against KC? You want to know the truth?
Yes.
Yes, I actually am.
Yes.
Because the Browns are done.
The Browns are done. They're toast.
I want the Browns to win out.
Yeah.
I want the Browns. Do you know why I want the Browns to win out? I want them to I don't want them anywhere close to the top of the draft. Do they have a first-round pick again? I can't remember.
Who knows?
I can't remember if they're finally get one now. I brought this up on a different show, and I just can't remember if they're ever done from where they gave up all those first-round picks or not. But yes, I'm going to root for. I definitely want them to win this game. Now, here's the thing that's really sucky about Kansas City. They are was it? They're 12-1, right? They could be there and all of a sudden flip the switch and be an unbeatable team that already has the 12-1 record.
Yeah.
Or they could be that team.
Or they continue being the team
flounders.
Or they continue to be the team that they've really been all season, which just does enough and gets some lucky breaks and wins games.
Doink through the win on Sunday night. Had Denver, they had the blocked kick to win the game there. Yep. If you watch any kind of reels or anything like that, there are so many about the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and the officials. It's hilarious how bad it is with some of these things. So I don't expect.
Well, apparently, if you're a Browns fan, you think the Steelers get more calls than the Chiefs. But that's only if you're a Browns fan.
Yeah. So my thing is, I just want to, but at the same time, the reason I would like to see the Browns beat the Chiefs is because I don't really want the Chiefs to lose to the Texans right before they play the Steelers.
Yep.
But even if they do, that's fine because that would just maybe they start down that stretch of a couple losses in a row like the Steelers had in 2020. We'll see. Yep. And that's honestly, I couldn't believe that the Panthers came that close to beating the Eagles. But because the Steelers are playing the Eagles this week, I'm kind of glad that they didn't. Because if they'd have beat the Eagles, then it would have been probably a little bit more panic mode, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So, and honestly, the Eagles, if you look at it, their last 4 games, this is their hardest game they've got left.
Yep.
Then the next week, on what I would consider an easier game, they have the Commanders. It gets easier for them each week. It goes Steelers, Commanders, Cowboys, Giants. That's their remaining schedule. So when I was on the podcast today, if you want to hear where my guest spot was, whenever they publish it, I'll have it on Twitter or X or whatever the crap you want to call it. That I'll be sharing it where you can listen where I did a spot there. With a Philly podcast, and it was all about. They're like 9 wins. You're kind of expecting that loss in there somewhere, and if it's the Eagles are kind of almost like if it's not to the Steelers now, then it's going to be a bad one.
Yeah,
this is actually the one game if they're going to lose another game this regular season, this is the one they don't mind losing at all.
Yep. Same way as the Steelers feel about it. Yes. But it's going to make for an interesting game on Sunday then.
Yes. So it will be a very interesting game on Sunday. So let's talk about that one a little bit because I feel like the Steelers have themselves set up for success. Yes, they have 3 losses. Yes, all 3 of those losses are games that the Steelers could have won. You could argue whether they thought they should have won. That's a whole different debate. The bottom line is they probably have some games that they won that they very well could have lost. So you got to kind of take the trade-offs. If you look at this, I'm not looking past the Eagles, but if the Steelers only have 1 win left out of their last 4, if it's in Baltimore, they win the North.
Yep.
No matter what. So that one while it doesn't kill them if they lose it, that's the one that really does it if they win it. So I just put that out there. But really, this is the week of one of those, the Steelers are up against it scenarios that I've talked about all season. I talked about the week 4 thing going into the season, about they struggled week 4. Then when it got there, I said, under Coach Tomlin, they've never won in week 4 after winning in week 3. They don't go 2-0 in week 3, week 4. They have the letdown in there. The only time they've won is either coming off the bye or coming off a loss. That's the only time they've won in week 4 under Coach Tomlin. So that played out. Playing short week after playing the Ravens, having to go to Cleveland on a Thursday night. That was the perfect, the perfect storm of the perfect suck storm. There we go, of what it was for the Steelers, and they lose that one. Yeah. Then you got this one, the 1965 monkey on their back that they haven't won in Philly. Now they've beaten the Eagles, just not in Philly.
Yep.
And then the last one is actually the one that I'm a little less concerned about because they have another short week after playing the Ravens. But that's a home game, and the Steelers have won a home game on a short week after playing the Ravens. But you know what the Steelers have never done? They've never played on a short week after a loss to the Ravens. Every time they've played the Ravens and then had a short week, it's coming off of a win against the Ravens. So no matter what, it's either the Steelers are going to win, and it's like, hey, they've walked to the North, this is great, or they didn't, and it's a whole new scenario. It's coming off a loss. So this is one of those that it would be really great to get off the schneid with this one. To say, hey, break whatever's going on with Philly. So do you expect them to?
Well, yeah, I expect us to go 4-0 over the last 4. 14-3. There you go.
14-3?
Yep. Just go 14-3 and then, beat up on everybody.
That would be great. I mean, it's not that they can't. It's just I need my sounds from Pittsburgh Standard Time. I don't know if that's a reasonable expectation just because of how much they're up against it. Here's the thing.
And the best part is they don't have to. They don't have to go 4-0. I mean, how many times have we been at the end of seasons lately? It's been like, man, the Steelers have to do this to even have a chance to make the playoffs. Well, the Steelers don't have to go 4-0 to have a chance to make the playoffs.
Nope. And that was
they could go
when we looked at the schedule.
They could go 0-4 and still make the playoffs.
Yeah. So, but that was the problem when you looked at the schedule. You're like, oh wow, that end of the schedule, and coming out of the bye and all the division games. Well, what's great about those division games? 4 division games in a row. They're 3-1. You told me to go 3-1 out of those 4 games, I'd take it. It's not the especially knowing what happens, going to Cleveland on a short week on a Thursday night. Regardless whether it's the Steelers or anybody else, it's just bad. So I would definitely take that because I'm like, wow, that either means that the Steelers beat the Ravens or they won in Cleveland on Thursday night. Either one of those, winning one of those two was a really good thing when you look back at it. So, but they've put themselves in a situation that they don't have to win all 4 games.
Yep.
They've put themselves in a situation they really technically could only have to win 1 and they get a home playoff game.
Yep.
But I'll be honest with you, it would be really nice. The number 2 seed is a really good thing right now in the NFL. People talk about the number 1 seed having a bye or whatever. Well, you have to sit. Yeah, sometimes it's nice to get the rest, but also coming off the bye in the playoffs isn't always what it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, the Steelers have,
and that means you've got a really good opponent in the first round. You've already got someone that's won a playoff game in the first round.
Yeah, and the Steelers sometimes, when they have that bye, take too long into the game to knock the rust off.
Yeah, and to me, the 2 seed right now, you know what's amazing about that? You win your first game, you're playing at home again. You're guaranteed to be at home for 2 games as long as you win. So,
nice.
That would be really good if the Steelers could find a way to get to that 2 seed. It really would.
Then I could get a playoff games. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because it would be really nice. The 3 seed you're still going to get one playoff game, but you're only going to get one unless you get the AFC Championship game, because the 2 and the 1 both lose in the divisional round. So that's just not what you go for. So the 1 seed is nice, the 2 seed, and you like keeping those in play. And honestly, if the Steelers win 2 of the last 4, I don't think they get the 2 seed. They probably hold on to the 3. And I say probably, and because it depends on who they win out of those games. So, and if not, then they probably ending up at the 5 seed if they don't win the North. So that's the thing you got to look at. If they don't host a game, they're most likely going to be a 5. I mean, it's a chance that they're not, but that's what they're doing. But I actually put a bet on the Steelers at the beginning of the year of exactly 11 wins. And the question was, are they going to get to 11 wins? And now my question is, are they going to get too many? I'm not going to be upset if they get too many. I've already hit the over. The over was 9.5. I've already hit that one. So that was pretty good. So what do you think, Rich? We're getting ready. We're winding down here. We're about ready to give our score predictions. And I think Steelers fans kind of get this. Think about what you're going to do, what you're going to say for your score. They kind of get it. And it's like, you don't have to win this game in Philadelphia. It's just really nice if you do. It's your hardest game left. I mean, going to Baltimore is no cupcake either, but sorry, the Eagles just beat Baltimore in Baltimore. They're better. So, or at least they were that day. So that would be really good. But it's to me, especially if you're talking about no George Pickens. When I was doing this podcast today, I was saying, not having George Pickens could make your team stronger at the end of the season and into the postseason. It really could. Now, it's not going to help this week against Philly.
Correct.
But it could help you further down the road if you can get some more established from Mike Williams, like some people were talking about in the live chat. I was surprised how little we saw of Calvin Austin without George Pickens this past week. But maybe now with a full week to prepare for it, you might see that a little bit more. That's the kind of thing. To me, I'm loving me some Jaylen Warren right now. When I was asked the most, the maybe the most secret weapon or whatever with the Steelers offense, I was talking about it could really be anyone each week. But Jaylen Warren, he's the guy that when he's on the field, you do not know if it's a run or a pass. You really don't. So he's a good weapon there. So seeing maybe some of these other guys emerge on offense could be a good thing. So there are good things that the Steelers could take out of a game in Philadelphia, even if it doesn't work out that they end up winning on the scoreboard. So let's not. I'm sorry. I wanted to get my little thoughts on the game out there. Give me your thoughts on the game, and then ultimately your score prediction.
All right, thoughts on the game. Going to be a lot of defense in this game. Like the defensive squad but for both teams. There's some questions I've been seeing from some Eagles fans and things here trying to figure out what in the world is going on with their offense. They're a little upset that the Eagles aren't able to put up more points given what they have weapons-wise on offense. And I get that from what some of their fans are saying. At times I'm feeling like, there's times for the Steelers, we've kind of been there, done that.
Especially, and the Eagles, like the Steelers of the past, have a top-notch defense too. So,
for me, my score on this game, I'm going to say the streak continues. I feel the Steelers probably drop this game in Philly. It probably is going to be another one of those close games. I'm going to say Eagles 20, Steelers 18.
Okay, so going with a little bit lower scoring than what they've been doing. I'm going to say this, that, you know what? I'm not. I'm going to go ahead and put the scores out there so people can start putting their scores in the live chat so we can read them. I really don't know what to expect with it. I really don't. I could see a low score. I could see a high score. I could see a close score. I could see. I don't know if it's going to. I don't want to see a 35-3 like we saw. What was that? 8 years ago. That was awful. Yeah. So that's the thing, and you got to remember that a couple things to put out there that before I start bringing up scores. The Eagles are pretty far down in the NFL with their pass offense, and the reason they are is because they've run it so darn good. They're the number one rushing offense. And yes, the Steelers have only faced Saquon Barkley one time, and in that game, he had 15 carries for 6 yards. But that was with the New York Giants and not with this offensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles, which is actually their biggest strength of their offense. Yeah, they have good wide receivers. Yeah, they have a good quarterback. Yeah, they have a great running back. But it's really the entire unit of their offensive line that really is the best part of that offense. So that's, to me, what makes – and we know this because Andy Weidel helped build it, and now we're trying to bring the same thing to Pittsburgh. Let's get to these scores. Gabriel Golden, 24-17. That's Steelers because he didn't put it in there. You know, most people around here know the rules. If you don't say a team, we assume it's Steelers. Steel Dog 88 says 23-19 Eagles, although he's hoping it's reversed. Thomas Riley, love it. And you know what, Rich? I'd take it. You know what?
So would I.
You know if they tie, they make the playoffs?
Yes.
Steelers 17, Eagles 17. It's 14-14 going into overtime. Eagles kick the field goal. Steelers get the ball. And the Eagles kick a field goal after running like 7 minutes off the clock. The Eagles get the ball. Boz kicks like a 59-yarder to tie it.
As time expires.
What's crazy is I could actually see that scenario happening. Okay, that I could see it. Okay, we got Christopher 11 saying 30-24 Steelers. This would be a huge win. I mean, if the Steelers beat the Eagles, look out, seriously. Especially if they do it without George Pickens. Like I said, most likely, highly likely, he doesn't play. TD Tom Dessenberger has 23-20 Steelers. Afton Forage, he's got 18-23 Philly. Very close to your score. She just has an extra field goal in there. Outside Steeler fan has good guys 24, Eagles 17. Dion Eaton says 27-17 Eagles. Steeler Chick 46 says Philly 28, Pittsburgh 24. Kathy Ford says 27-24 Eagles. Frosty the Bear says rain effect, Steelers 19, Eagles 13. There's a 50% chance of rain right now. 50% chance of rain. That could change. Yeah.
Could change, but there is a small chance from some of what I can see. It could be a substantial rain.
Yeah. Yep. So that'll come more into picture probably around Friday or so. Thomas Eads has 21-18 Steelers with a field goal to win. BF Bud has 31-20 Eagles. I'd be disappointed if the Eagles put up over 30. I mean, in all honesty, not that they can't. It's just I would really like to see the Steelers defense not allow that. Jeffrey Benedict has 15-11 Eagles, the dumbest and worst game since last week in Philly. Because that would kind of be a dumb score, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Gavin Anthony says Eagles 27-23. AFL 67 has Eagles 23, Steelers 20. Let's see what other. Oh, here we go. George Packdeman. Okay, there's that. Eagles has Steelers 23, Eagles 17. Steelers Pittsburgh has 10-7 Steelers. Let's see, Jerry Cherry Band. He's got Pittsburgh 27-24 and Pittsburgh 27-24, and Pickett plays the second half. That would be an interesting game to watch. It really would. It really would. You know, if he plays, I want him to play because I don't want him to play because if he comes into play, I want it to be because it's a Steelers blowout, not the other way around. But honestly, it's fun to talk about now. Come game time, I don't even care. I don't even care.
I see it as he comes in because Alex Highsmith knocks the snot out of Jalen Hurts.
You want to see someone knock the snot out of him? You know who I would think would do it the most?
Cam Hayward.
Honestly, I'm going to Landon Roberts, man. That
Landon
guy's been
Roberts.
that
Oh
guy's
my
been
gosh.
crazy. Yeah. And I think we're going to see a lot of him because of the run.
By the
heavy
way,
nature.
I'm going to bring up one thing about him about the
We'll
last
get back
game.
to
Everybody
sports.
talks about the fourth down stop that he had,
Yeah.
and some people were saying, "Why was Cleveland running wide? Why was Cleveland running wide?" If you really look closely, the back actually looked to turn it to an off tackle
Yeah.
type run, but didn't because a Landon Roberts was coming.
Yeah.
So then his
He
only
was basically
option
running
was
for
to
his
try
life and had to go
to
wider.
bend the corner, and
Yeah.
Landon Roberts said,
I know.
"All right, that scores."
Yeah. All right. Sherry Richards, 23-20 Eagles. Steelers Fanatic 78, 31-24 Steelers. Richard Adamson has 18-13 Steelers. John Edborg says Steelers will take down Philly like the Brits did in 1777. 28-17. I don't you always read the comments like that, but I can appreciate that one. Okay. Bupsy has 24-20 Eagles. Mr. Woodside has Philly 24-20. And Mean Green has 33-21 Steelers. The Steelers could put up 33 points on this Eagles defense. This is one of the few times the Steelers are going up against a team that allows less points than they do. Now, it's not much less. The Eagles are 18. The Steelers are 18.3. But if they could put up points like that, that would, I mean, the Steelers going over 20 points would be really good. Really. Because that's how balanced this Eagles team is. So we'll see how this plays out. That's all the scores that I have right now. Rich, I'm going to say the biggest thing about this game. I'm going to leave it at this since I don't give my score until Thursday. It's not that I don't believe that the Steelers can win. Oh, I think the Steelers can beat anybody. I really do. The question is, will they? And what makes it a harder question is because they haven't done so in that city for so long. That's why it's such a tough question.
Right.
And that's why we see so many Steelers fans saying, hey, this is one you kind of looked at the beginning of the year and said, I'm not banking on winning that game. So that's the way.
because if you stop and think about it, Chuck Noll never won a game in Philadelphia.
No.
Bill Cowher never won a game in Philadelphia.
No.
And so far in his career, Mike Tomlin has not won a game in Philadelphia.
Nope.
So if you just play the odds right now, you're thinking, can the Steelers, not win this game? Now, then there's on the other side, and gotta love this term, everybody's like, well, the Steelers will win. They're due. Well, really, their odds are the same as what they are about every other time they play. It's just that the Steelers haven't turned those odds into a win since 1965. Could the Steelers win this game? Of course the Steelers could win this game.
Yeah.
Very much so. Just, I'm one of those, though, that when I'm looking over these last four, the first thing, it was one of the first things I got to after the win. I'm still sitting in my seats at Acrisure, and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, if the Steelers are going to lose any in these last four, the first one that you're okay with losing is Philly.
Yeah.
Because it's NFC.
This would honestly, the way I look at it, this would be a bonus win.
Yes.
This would be a bonus win for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they could go into Philly with that game. Got another score. Mark Tobin has 28-18 Steelers, and at the end of the drought needs some Phillies cheesesteaks. Although Jeffrey says Pepe's makes a better cheesesteak than anyone in Philly. Love that bold prediction. Hey, make sure you're checking out all our podcasts here at Steel Curtain Network. We have our regular schedule for this week with one exception. Steel City Insiders pushed back this week based on some things going on with them. I don't think we're going to be able to have that one until probably Friday instead. But look for something else in that slot. It should even potentially be a nice original show from someone here, one that you don't always get this year at least. So make sure you're looking for that Wednesday at 11 in its place. Other than that, we'll be bringing you there. And Steel Curtain Network continues to drop your stuff. You should be getting another Worthless 2 cents from Big Bro later this week. Stadium style this time. So that would be really good. And Rich, what do you want to say here to finish closing us out here tonight?
All right, just a couple things. One, how nice is it to, with four games left, to be into double digit wins already? I looked at that as a real nice positive thing for the Steelers. Like, I just sat after the game on Sunday and just thought of all the things that made that win really good, and there were just so many of them. Okay, now we talked about Steelers haven't won in Philly since 1965. Okay, whoop-de-doo. Okay, as I think it was Kyle saying, okay, you know what streaks are made for? Streaks are made to be broken. So that streak will break. Will it be this Sunday? It could be.
Yeah.
Would love to see it. As you said, it would kind of be that bonus win. Would be a little icing on the cake. Yeah, my biggest thing is this, and watch the game. I want the Steelers to come out of this game fairly healthy. We don't need a whole bunch of injuries or anything like that going on, because that could be real hurtful down the stretch. But in the end, I'm going to be there on my couch on Sunday, writing my knee-jerk reaction article. Thank you for filling in for me last week, Dave. Writing the article, cheering on the Steelers, hope they win. I got a lot riding on this because, Kyle and I got some family on his mother's side who are big Philadelphia Eagles fans. So for us, we'd like to, put a couple of Kyle's uncles and keep them, shut up. So, but in the end, we tend to be fairly respectful with them because, they understand and we understand that they're NFC, we're AFC, and in the end, we'd like to just face off in the Super Bowl. But I'll be going to be there on Sunday, hanging out, watching football, wearing my black and gold. Go Steelers. Can't wait.
You gotta just chill out.